Thank you for joining me for week 7 of the Time Bubble interview series. I am your host, EJ Borkert. For those unfamiliar with the show, this is a segment that is going to appear each weekend on my blog, where I will pick a character from this past week's chapter to interview. I'm going to be pulling these characters from a specific part of the story and talk with them about what they're thinking and feeling about what is going on in the story. Don't worry, they won't remember any of this ever happening, so this won't have any effect on the story. They will be returned to the very moment I borrowed them from, so their absence won't be noticed. This week, I asked John Alforge from Rebellion and Aquore to join me. Thanks for meeting with me, John.
I'm just glad that someone with influence wants to hear what I think.
Of course I'm interested in what you have to say. The condition of the planet is a result of the government not listening to you.
No, the condition of the planet is a result of the masked man going out and acting on his own.
That was what I wanted to talk with you about, actually. I understand that he recently changed the rebellion's plans to attack another non-government target. Why did you decide to go along with his plans?
There were a couple of reasons. The fact that he overheard that he thought the government might be expecting us, or the guns that Frederick's men had was the big one.
And why is that? What is so special about these guns?
It's nothing special about the guns. It's the fact that they are guns.
What do you mean by that?
The government on Aquore has outlawed and confiscated all guns that were brought onto the planet. They figured that it would be easier to control the population if they weren't armed.
I understand that, but I'm surprised they didn't keep the guns for themselves and arm their enforcers.
I'm sure they were afraid of a rebellion getting their hands on the firearms. As long as they have a trained fighting force, they have the advantage over the population.
That makes sense. I wanted to talk more about the night that you went after those firearms. I understand that things got a little out of hand.
Yes and no. We had originally planned on fighting Frederick's men for those firearms, but I don't think anyone intended for it to turn out the way that it did.
Why do you think that the rebel that shot Mr. Stark reacted the way that he did?
Sam panicked. After finding the building empty, we were all taken by surprise when someone showed up.
Do you think things would have turned out differently if you had put the rebels through some sort of training?
Yes, but we never intended to attack anyone. We just wanted to do sabotage on the government equipment and try and make them change the way they govern the planet.
I think we could look back at the event that started this whole ordeal and say that it was a result of the rebels not having any training. I think it's great that everyday people are standing up for what's right, but don't you think it's a little risky to use amateurs?
It's difficult to find an opportunity to train and avoid government scrutiny. I feared that we would be caught and the entire rebellion would have ended. Things were going fine until that masked man got involved. If I ever find out who he is, I'm going to make him pay for all the pain he's caused this planet.
I'm sure that the masked man is just trying to do what he feels is best for the planet. We've run out of time for this interview, but I wanted to thank John Alforge for being my guest today. I hope that today's interview gave you a little more insight into John and the world of the Rebellion in Aquore, and that you will join me next week for our special interview with a character from the Supermorpher. Look for more Time Bubble interviews to come in the future, and if you have a character you would like me to interview from the Supermorpher, leave it in a comment down below. John, if you will follow these fine gentlemen, they'll make sure that you get back to your story.
The Time Bubble interviews have been brought to you by and paid for by Godard Labs.